Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Coming up at 9:35, Larry Williams of Williams Brake Tune and Tire. At 10:05, we'll start getting into some of the local and statewide political news of the day. Joining me on the phones right now, Deputy Press Secretary of the RNC, Mike Joyce, joining us on the program today. Mike, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Always great to be talking to a Texan.
Absolutely. Great to have you on today. Let's start off with just right now, when you're looking at how things are shaping up for Republicans moving as we move towards 2020. What's the overall feeling right now among those at the RNC about the upcoming presidential race?
Sure. I think when you look right now, the momentum's clearly on our side. You look at some of these special elections happening around the country, we've already flipped 4 seats. The Democrats haven't flipped any seats. So in purple states, red states, blue states, you name it, we're already flipping seats. The momentum's with the president. Things are looking good going into 20.
The president yesterday, well, I guess it was on Monday actually. The president had commented about how it's easy to run on socialism. It is something that is seductive and it brings people in, but it's hard to govern on socialism. Almost impossible to govern on socialism. Is this a message that you think resonates with those in the Rust Belt and those throughout the middle of the country when it comes to capitalism versus socialism? Because it seems to me that's where the Democrats want this debate to be.
Right. Well, I think with the Democrats it surely is because socialism has taken over their party. But I think the general electorate has vehemently rejected socialism, and they're going to continue to. But, a new poll came out in the Des Moines Register over the weekend showing that Iowa Democrats, 91% of them want a candidate who supports the Green New Deal. 84% want a candidate who supports Medicare for all. 81% want a candidate who would tax wealth over $50 million. This is their platform for the party. And if you look at some of the comments that 2020 Dems were saying at South by Southwest in Austin over the weekend, basic things like saying you're a capitalist is a faux pas in their party now, and it's pretty concerning.
Yeah, how did we get to this point? Well, with that part, and I know you don't speak for the Democrat Party, but how did we get to this point where Bernie Sanders was kind of on the outside looking in just a couple of years ago, and now he's seen as the mainstream within the Democrat Party?
Absolutely. He even said himself, those ideas were once considered radical, fringe, extreme. They are the mainstream in their party now, and folks like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez only emphasize that even further.
When you look at the state of Texas, Texas is, many say, getting more and more competitive. By the year, it's getting more and more competitive. What is the focus now for the RNC on the state of Texas, and has it changed since even 2016?
Sure. I think you can go back to 2014 when you had Wendy Davis and the Castro brothers thinking they can turn Texas blue. You hear the same recycled rhetoric every cycle from the Dems in Texas, but I think the writing was on the wall. I think we've seen this coming for quite some time now, and the Texas GOP is in good hands with Chairman James Dickey. They know what they're doing. They understand that we need to grow the party to continue to win, and we can't just rely on rural areas. We have to keep focusing on suburban areas. And we got to cut our losses in some of these cities where, the People's Republic of Austin, they can influence a couple House races this cycle that we don't want to lose, and we're paying special attention to those races. So I think top to bottom, when you have President Trump and Senator Cornyn on the top of the ticket, that will help with our down-ballot candidates. But we understand that the dynamic of the state is changing, and, we're not taking anything for granted.
Visiting with Mike Joyce of the RNC, and maybe those who are involved in the Republican Party and those who are involved in the politics every single day, maybe they're ready for this fight. Are the Republican voters ready for this fight in Texas? It seems, living out here in West Texas, we got the West Texas firewall. There are a lot of people, I think, who live in a bubble of this is a red state. Texas is always going to be a red state. We're conservative. Do you think the average Republican voter is ready for this fight? And how do you gear them up for this fight going into 2020?
Sure. It's hard to cry wolf every cycle and say, Texas could turn blue if you don't come out and knock doors, make phone calls, get out and vote. It's a little different this time around because in 2018, we saw with Senator Cruz the Robert Francis O'Rourke effect, and we lost a lot of appeals judges across the entire state because of that. So I think now we're seeing that Democrats are finding a way where they can at least be, I guess I would say, competitive, but not having a chance of winning it just yet per se. But there's a model for them now to follow after O'Rourke's race last cycle. And so I think for us, we can point to that and say, look, the state is changing. We've lost all of our appeals judges around the entire state. This is a red flag. This is a warning signal here. Senator Cruz is beloved by Texas Republicans in the state of Texas. So the fact that he had such a competitive race is kind of concerning. And I think now you can look at it and say, well, the writing's on the wall here. Going into 2020, President Trump's reelection, Democrats are motivated. They want to take out the president. And they also understand that if they take out Texas from our victory this cycle, then we cannot win the presidency this cycle or any time going forward. So it's a little different this time around, and I think 2018 was a good reminder that the dynamic of the state is changing, and we have our work cut out for us.
When looking ahead to some of the other Democrats who may jump into this thing, obviously, I think Bernie Sanders right now is the front runner. You have the former vice president. Looks like he's going to jump into this, Joe Biden. And at some point, O'Rourke is going to make a decision, and most likely he's going to run for president. How do you think that changes the dynamic of that race?
Sure. I think with Beto, I think his lane is kind of getting clogged right now with Pete Buttigieg over the weekend. He got some noise and kind of being the brash outside kind of guy. But I think a Biden and a Beto just further clouds, who's going to come out of this thing alive and what the policies are going to be that they're on record talking about in favor of during the primary. So I think you're going to see quite a concerning candidate come out of there, especially when, Democrats in these early states are demanding socialism, and the party's demanding socialism.
Before I let you go, I just want to ask your comment on this because I found the headline pretty funny, where Democrats, Republicans, a lot of people used to stay away from Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, it was, considered by many one of the most, if not the most unpopular presidents in recent memory. Here's the headline from Politico today. 2020 Democrats see Jimmy Carter as the antidote to Trump. And you have apparently some of these Democrats who have been meeting with Jimmy Carter and I guess trying to channel their inner Jimmy Carter in order to defeat President Trump. I don't see that working out real well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're running out of options. Hillary Clinton wouldn't be the greatest person to take advice on how to win in states like Wisconsin or Michigan. So I think they're losing kind of their top line folks there of who can be a good person to give advice for how to win some of these places. When I hear that someone like Amy Klobuchar sits down with Andrew Gillum on how to win Florida, it's kind of concerning because, as we know, he did not win Florida in 2016. So that they're having to go all the way back to Jimmy Carter to get advice is, I would be concerned as a Democrat.
Yeah, but elated as a Republican. That might be a good thing.
Exactly.
We're visiting with Mike Joyce, Deputy Press Secretary with the RNC. Mike, any other thoughts before we let you go about how this race is shaping up for the president?
No, I think that's it. I think when we get to 2020, I think a lot of folks are going to be excited about the vision that President Trump has laid out. It's been a couple of years of promises made and promises kept, and it's only going to be going forward. So thanks for the time. It's always great to talk to you.
Mike, always good to visit with you as well, and we'll visit with you down the road as the 2020 presidential race continues. That's Mike Joyce here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. We'll be right back.